Glad to hear it. Thanks so much for your time on the show. We know you're super busy writing away about the Nordics and the European ecosystem. Tell me, on the ground, what's it like?
It's good. It's like Stockholm is on fire. I was just meeting up with one founder who's like, "Well, I guess you're rather busy these days," and I'm like, "Well, yes, I am." So that's how things are. But on the other hand, I don't think I've ever had a quiet period since I started writing about tech in 2015. So I think it's just like it's what you make of it, right?
Mimi, you make waves across the Nordics. Some people like your writing, some people don't. And we've had this conversation offline. I think it has to be both sides. You can't just uplift everyone consistently. And you provide a lovely way of like a back and forth dialogue. So I'm going to give you your flowers where flowers are due. Other people can hate on it for whatever they care. We love the writing over here. Continue it. I've got to ask, yeah, how the hell have you kept on doing this for such a long period of time?
I haven't had many other job offers, I guess. No, I suppose it's like being a journalist. Whatever you write about, things are always evolving in some way, and I like change. And in the startup ecosystem, as you know, it's always something new, whether it's quantum or fusion or something else like now Gen AI. I mean, there's always something new coming, and I think it makes you, be on your toes and trying to just find out like what's it about. And thankfully, most journalists we can always ask really stupid questions, and I'm one of them that asked all the stupid questions. I'm never afraid of sounding stupid because hey, at the end of the day, it's my words are going to be on paper. And if even if people think like, well, she probably doesn't know that much about quantum, well, neither do our readers, so it's fine. Yeah.
Oh, it's so true. We had Quantum Dice from, I think it was Oxford University on the show. And me trying to explain the quantum phenomena was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life.
Maybe you should have left it to him or her to do.
I tried. It was a back and forth dialogue, but we ended up getting there. It is complicated. Look, I want to use this time with you to one, sort of understand some of the latest things that have happened in the Nordics, but also two, to sort of like see how you view the reporting space in Europe at the moment, right? And I want to start on the latter more than the former. Obviously, working at Sifted, incredible publication. You are one of the like larger reporting mediums in Europe and reporting on the European Renaissance currently. How do you find like what is it like? How has it transitioned from when you first started?
Well, sifted or the ecosystem
Just the
overall.
ecosystem and reporting within the
Yeah.
ecosystem.
I I think it depends on which market you are in. I mean, there are mature markets and there are less mature markets. And if you are looking at, for example, London, the kind of reporting on the London market, it's like reporting on almost anything else. Like it's like reporting on banks is the same as reporting on startups in some way. Even if people feel like it's their baby, like all startup founders do, it's a bit more people understand media.
Hmm.
I think in like Stockholm, it has grown to become much more mature in the last 10 years or so. So now people are more aware of how to speak to media, and that media is not always on your side, but often on your side in the beginning at least, and then it can change that kind of relationship. And I think like for example, in smaller ones like Oslo, Helsinki, even like Amsterdam, even like France in some way, people are not as aware on how to deal with media, and that media is supposed to be startup media in a way. We're supposed to be their friends, but we're not really. Like we're more like this kind of nagging mother who's like, we're all happy with you when you're like nice and sweet, but when you start like throwing your socks around, we're gonna become really angry and like be like bitches. So that's probably like a good comparison to media, I think.
I love it. You must quite like the fact that Anton has pledged, what is it, 50% of his salary towards the ecosystem in the Nordics then.
Yeah, I'm a journalist. I'm not happy or sad or anything. I'm just like, that sounds great. Maybe other people can do it too. But on the other hand, I mean, like, even if you pledge 50% of your earnings to the startup ecosystem, well, I don't know, because maybe these startups are not going to be, I mean, they might not be the be the ones in need in like 10, 15, 20 years. It might be like normal people that cannot get a job because AI has taken them. And the shift between rich and poor has grown so wide. So maybe that's going to be the real issue. And so I think that even if we are in a big bubble talking about like venture capital, startups, and so on, we need to see this kind of bubble as part of the whole kind of society. And I think that's usually is missed, both in like media, but also in like how even how startups think about themselves and their role. So
It's an
there we go.
interesting landscape that we currently have, right? You've obviously got these legacy media companies and sort of like TechCrunch moving away and just focusing very much on the US. I have no idea why, because we have incredible talent and companies building here. And then you have people like yourselves that are like on the ground reporting. And then there's versions of me that are quite literally just live streaming this renaissance from behind the camera. I, how do you like get out the best of these stories?
I don't know. I just like talking. I think that's
Oh,
my kind of
you and me both.
yeah, and I think that's, I mean, I think every journalists have their different skills. And I think some people are really good at just like sitting there going through the numbers, finding the kind of stories within them. I think I'm better at talking to people and getting the stories out of them by both listening but also talking, so have more of a friendly relationship, but then it's like at least trying to be fair and open to each other. I think that's how I do it best.
And the writing style that you've sort of created over the last 6, 7, 8 years that you've been as a journalist, or is it 15 years as a journalist? Like, what has that developed into today? How have you refined the craft? Is it just consistently the reps of writing stories and figuring out like, is this a balanced view, or is it that you've found an angle and you consistently take it?
I think I almost wrote better when I had a blog or like yeah, a blog like
Do
back
we
in
want to
like
give you? We're going to
2011.
give you a Mimi segment on the show.
No, but it's like it's just really hard because I think you also get into this kind of this is the way you're supposed to write startup news, and then you write it that way, and then you lose some kind of character within the writing. So I don't know if I'm actually gotten better or worse. I think it's about finding people's quotes that maybe I'm getting better at, and also thank God for AI because now I don't have to like sit there and take notes, and so I'm happy about that, and maybe can focus more on what people actually say.
No, it's so true.
So
Just like you stick on granola and then you can have the conversation.
yeah, exactly.
Works a charm.
So yeah,
Look, I want to talk about some of the news that's come out of the Nordics, right? And you've been reporting on it like deeply and intimately. Sana's acquisition by Workday. What's the sentiment right now?
yeah. So I mean, Sana is one of those, it's been around for ages.
Mm.
The founder has been seen, like Joel Hellemark, he was like 16 or something when he founded Sana. He was so, no, 16, company, like maybe 18, 19 then. But he was very, very young. And now 9, 10 years later, he's selling his fantastic AI startup to Workday, which is I don't know. People have been saying to me when I was writing about it, I was wondering like, what is it about? And they were like, well, this is what everyone has, but no one likes it. So they are actually joining a company which is much, much larger. But I don't. I mean, and it's great for Swedish ecosystem.
Because they can deploy
I
that
mean,
capital back into the ecosystem, hopefully.
yeah, and here's what we've done. I had I was in Nordic Tech Week last week, and I was sitting there with like three founders of AI startups,
Mm.
and they had all been like had Joel Hellemark, which is the founder of Sana, as angel investor. So he's already given back, and he's giving back every day to new ones as well. And it's like it's an incredible, great thing. However, he was saying to me like for less than a year ago that he wanted to build Sana to become this $1 trillion company, and now he sold it for $1.1 billion. It's a good sum. It's nothing bad with that. It's a good times like it's a good money if you look at it times sales as well. It seems like, but it's also a bit of a shame that we couldn't build this really big one. And this is not the first time this happens. Like Silo AI is a Finnish AI company.
Hmm.
It was sold to another big American firm just a year ago. I mean, it seems like when are we gonna be able to build these $1 trillion companies and like keep them?
What is the
Is it like
restrictions? What do you think they are? Because like, is there a $1 trillion company that's come out of Europe yet?
no, but at least we have like bigger ones. I mean,
We've got the
like
Decacons,
Spotify
we've got some
has,
large
yeah,
ones, we have the household names. But like, if we're going for that $1 trillion number, in your view, you spend the time there, you report on the ecosystem. What do you think needs to change?
well, I don't know. I think it's just sticking it out, really. I mean, in some way, and being big and being having like taking the US market. I mean, that's why Spotify managed in some way because they actually took the US market. Klarna, it's obviously not there yet, but they went public and is trying to take the US market more and
Hmm.
more. I mean, the US market is so big, so even if you're a European company, you almost have to, be there as well.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I think it's interesting because this is not the first one. We have iSettle. I don't know if you
Yes,
know
I do.
iSettle, this fintech, yeah. So that
Oh,
was
why? I
sold
do
to
my research as well.
PayPal.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that was sold to PayPal, and we had Tink, another Swedish fintech that was sold to Visa,
Hmm.
Mastercard, maybe Mastercard. But it's also like, how will these startups actually be able to continue working, even if they said to be like they're going to be a standalone unit within this bigger company? I mean, I don't know if any of these founders ever had a boss before, and if they can manage to be managed. I think this it's interesting, but also these people are somehow built to build companies.
Hmm.
To restrain them to sit in some bigger office and to having to do the corporate BS in some way. I don't know if that's good for
Well,
them.
you look at what's happening at Meta with Scale AI, right? You have this exodus of talent that's sort of like come in and now is now leaving. I don't
Mm.
really see them. I don't understand how those acquihires worked. When you've got people that are just built differently, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Anton, but when I do, I assume the man is going to be a visionary in how he thinks about the world. And so restraining him to, a box with four walls isn't going to allow him to think big, isn't going to allow the firm to think big.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Anton either. I think it's really hard to say about people. But I think if you, well, I just don't know if how long they will stay. And the aqua hires, I mean, that just seems like a really bad idea. To be fair.
In the Sana deal, was it a full exit or was it an acquihire?
I think it's an aqua hire more than a full exit because well, when speaking to Joel, he wouldn't tell me what the deal was, but it's often a lock-in period of 1 to 2 years, right, for the founder. So I guess that for Joel, it will mean staying at Workday for that time. But you know, we're discussing like what will he do next? You know, after 9 years into building a startup, maybe
What
he
does
needs to
what
take a
does someone
break.
like
I
do?
don't know.
Do you think they need to take a break today? You've seen the transition of not just AI, but like you've gone through the metaverse, you've gone through the back end of like
Mm.
this weird social revolution that we had into Web3 and the metaverse, out the other end of AI now. Do you think they can take a break, or do you think they're just wired
I don't
for
know.
building?
But Viraj, if you put $200 million in my account, you can see what I would do. I would probably take a break. So I
He's
guess
going
it's
on
like
holiday.
I think I would take a bit of a break, maybe, just to be able to be also like, maybe like you will obviously want to see Sana survive in some way, but he's obviously also standing in between, like, well, if he wants Sana to still be like a big part of Workday, he would have to move to the US, right?
Hmm.
But he's built the culture. The culture is so strong within Sana, and Sana is going to stay in Stockholm. So how will he be able to do both? Because you still need to have like the politics of everything needs it's not being done in the US. But then you have the culture and the company back here in Stockholm. I don't know how he will split the time, but I think you need to be somehow in both places just to be able to make sure that you don't disappear in some way. Or just being like Skype, for example, how Microsoft, you know, kind
Absorbed
of
it, and that's
killed it in the end.
sort of like
Yeah,
it became the
absorbed it and
bedrock for
killed it.
teams.
Yeah, it did, but then it was still like a standalone product, but then it was like no longer. And many people said like, well, it's actually, just being bought by Microsoft kind of killed Skype because there was no development put into it. It was like no, it could have become a better product, obviously.
Do you see that happening a lot? People or companies, larger corps, sort of buying the IP, just buying the whole company for the IP, and then just sort of shifting off the products, like sunsetting it and just using it in their other tooling.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the kind of the purpose of it. I think it's just sometimes it's really hard also to work with startup people.
They're
You
a
know, it's
fun
like,
bunch.
yeah, but it's like, yeah, that's probably also why you don't want to work like lawyers, journalists, or startup people. I think they're all a bit the same.
I
They
like the
know
journalists. I
everything,
like
right?
them all. I think they're all just misunderstood. And you've got to find the ground to talk to them on of what works, like what gets them up in the morning. It's like journalists today. It's you sort of hunting for the stories. You're trying to write. You're trying to put into the craft. The media landscape's changed a little bit. People want a little bit more flair. They
Mhm.
want some opinion pieces, like you do, for instance. Why you get the readers.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe you tell me. I don't know.
Wow,
I have
you
no
can see
idea.
me tuning in because I like it. And
Yeah, good, good.
I'm the one that's also reporting on it. So here we are. I hear from the grapevine that you were at a climate tech conference last week, but no one mentioned the climate.
I No, no one mentioned the climate. Did I? Have I told you that? Have I? Yeah. No,
I do my
they
research.
didn't. Yeah. So this was the drop, which is actually probably seen as one of the best climate tech conferences in the whole of Europe.
Hmm.
Everyone is coming. Everyone loves it. It's just there's loads of round tables, only round tables, no panels, all that. So everyone gets to chip in and say what they think, and it's like all good. But I was just going around. Now, to be fair, I wasn't at all the round tables because you can't split yourself up in 15. But I went to a few, and there was so much talk about like AI, obviously, but resilience and even drones and underwater kind of military things.
And
That's
how does
like,
this apply to
I
climate? Like, how does
well,
any of it?
that is a good question. It's the thing is like climate tech is completely uninteresting for everyone right now. No one cares about climate tech. So everyone is trying to change the story. So everyone becoming like, what's your story, right? So now it's more like, well, resilience is really important, because if we're gonna be able to keep, you know, working on our climate here in Europe, we obviously need also to own the supply chain. So that becomes supply chains, and, whatever tech. But then also, if we have war, that's not going to be great for the climate. So
Hmm.
we also need to be sort of support the defense tech because that's also kind of, if we want to have a great way of living, that's kind of coming into it as well. So all of a sudden, it's more like anything fits as long as it's a little bit cool and maybe can get more money than if you would ever mention climate tech. And that's like VCs, they are not raising funds with climate tech. They have to swap around to be resilience because the LPs, those who are investing in the VCs, they don't want to invest in climate anymore. So, and then you have like the startups obviously getting money from the VCs. Well, they have to show that they can be used for more than just climate. So, I was hearing this one startup that was doing seabed kind of analysis for
Hmm.
how it's changing climate and so on. But then they realized that, well, actually, this can be used more as a security measure.
Yep.
So, like to secure the seabeds to see, like, no kind of underwater drones. I don't know, underwater boats or whatever is coming through. So now it's more like a military defense kind of
Do you think
startup.
that's like changing that narrative is good because it allows them to access more funding that they can then continue on the climate tech journey for and sort of like achieve the mission of the company? Or do you feel that when they do that, the narrative changes completely and they end up becoming a defense tech or they end up becoming a drone company or they end up becoming a supply chain company rather than the original mission?
Yeah, I'm gonna be very honest. I think that the whole thing is just bullshit. I think that we have a climate that actually is really, we are killing our Earth or like planet in some way, and we are still thinking like how we're gonna make money out of it. It's like maybe these climate tech investors should never have gone into climate because it was only a hype and they only wanted to make more money, and therefore they went into climate. And now when they can't make money out of it, they have to find something else. So
Hmm.
I'm like, well, maybe capitalism and making all this kind of impact unicorns and it's kind of money, like the money
The
grabbing of
anti-fund
it.
theory, right? Of like, let's just go against the
Yeah,
grain.
yeah, but I'm sorry, but I can't. It doesn't seem to work.
Okay, so
And like
humor
because
me.
if you, yeah,
What do you think is the not the right way, but what's the fix here? If we're consistently optimizing for cash and we're consistently optimizing for money and wealth, what needs to change? Education in the ecosystem of like go on a mission and get after it,
No.
or what, like what in it is it in your
Yeah,
view?
yeah, yeah.
You
I mean,
spend
if you
more
talk
time with
edu
founders than most people.
mm. I don't think this is a founder problem. I mean, like, and also education. It's like saying to female founders, like, hey, give them some education how to raise money. It's like, no, they don't need it. They just need money, And it's the same thing here, really. We don't need more. I mean, we need more money into the system, but it's not going to come from VC. I mean, look at China. I mean, we all look at China and be like, oh, no. But
Mm-mm.
I mean, they are probably the ones that actually change.
Mm-hmm.
Like they become green in a way that Europe hasn't managed, and no
Mm-hmm.
one else has managed, because they were like, oh, okay, we need to electrify the car industry. Okay, so let's put lots of money into it and let's take away the
when
fuel.
you when
And
you
then,
look at them as the laughing stock of the world for the last 10 plus years because they couldn't get their real estate, I feel like it was just this big hush of like, let's go to work, let's build the factories, let's build the dark factories, let's electrify
yeah,
everything, automation, infrastructure. They build at an incredible rate and the rest of the world should
yeah.
be scared, or at least look to them and go like, we need some of that energy and some of that engineering prowess.
But we just need to put our money where our mouths are. And we do not care about the climate, because in that case, I mean, Sweden's usually seen like a climate friendly country, whatever. But then we put we lower the taxes on gasoline because hey, people need to drive their cars. I'm like,
Aren't you an
that's not
electrified
going.
country?
Yes, we have so much electricity that we have to give it away to the rest of Europe, but we still can't manage to have like electric car fleet.
How interesting.
So we have like we have there are problems obviously with this kind of narrative, and I don't think that the VC model will ever solve our climate problems, even though it's great with like. And I love the startups. I think that they have great initiatives. They are coming up with solutions that would be amazing if someone has put money into, enough money, not just like, oh, here you go, here's 10 million euros. Because then this other company that's doing a much less you know, climate healthy, climate friendly alternative, it's going to take almost enough of the same amount from the government in some countries. So it's like we need to do something, and it's not probably going to be another climate tech conference or another VC saying like, "Way, I'm going to give 5 million tickets to another climate tech industry."
Just so that it's more, the laws have to change around it. There has to be some sort of government intervention, or it needs to be a wider range of people just putting their money where their mouth is and going like, look, we don't care. It's okay. We're going to go focus on this.
Yeah, but if the whole of Europe is saying that we're going to be like,
We're not going to meet our
I
ESG
don't know.
ESG goals or
No,
whatever
no,
they are.
no.
Let's be
But
perfectly honest.
we always put those goals up, but then no one wants to do something with it. If we don't even have governments that are deciding,
Hmm.
making the right decisions, how can we expect like the capital to go any other way? Because capital follow regulations, right? So that's why it's like it was loads of money coming into this space before, because we all of a sudden it was a rush to do things because we had a heat wave a few years back, and it was like, wow, it's so hot, we need to change things now. And then things happened, but then you know Ukraine happened, and this and that, and there was other things that took precedence. So now we are thinking more about like defense tech, and that's where the money is. And really, fuck the climate is what's happening.
It's a
Sorry, that's
shame.
very depressing.
It is. It is. It's
Sorry.
okay. But like we're building rockets, and maybe we can go to Mars. Who knows, or the moon in the short term. I'm not sure if we're going to compete with SpaceX yet, but you're closer to the Nordic outpost than I
I
am.
actually, you don't know this, but actually, I live almost in the countryside now. So it's half an hour outside Stockholm
Uh huh.
and 20 minutes outside Stockholm. They are building these great rockets. Like
No way.
Python Rocket is the startup, yeah. So I went to see them, and they are like around the corner from where I live, and it's amazing. So things are obviously happening. I don't know if they're ever going to take us to Mars, but they're going to set up satellites or whatever. But anyway,
It's a starting
pretty
point, right?
cool.
That's how SpaceX did it. We'll go from
Yeah.
there. We'll take what we can get currently, and we'll keep iterating. That's the beauty of the game.
Yeah. I mean, good.
Mimi, This transition of media that you're currently in is, like I said, legacy media publications have left. You're still in the game with Sifted. You've got this new wave of like live streamers like myself that are playing it. What are some of the lessons of the game that you've got for us?
Okay, so I would say one thing is quite fun. I spoke to someone else, like normal journalist, a few months ago, probably early this summer, and I mentioned Lovable, and he was like, he's Swedish as well, and he was like, "What?" And like, "You have heard of Lovable?" He was like, "No," and I think that is the lesson we should learn. That he's a really good journalist as well. But
I,
anyway,
I,
so
I probably agree, whoever it is, but sometimes living under a rock.
yeah, yes, but who is actually living under a rock? Is it we or the rest? Because, I don't know. I speak to my mother, my sister, no one seems to read what I write. I mean, out of my close family and friends, and they have no idea. I mean, even like people that I know really close, and they're like, "Have you heard of Enride?" And I was like, "Yes, here are all the 5 different articles I've written about Enride." I mean, so the people do not know as much about our startup bubble as we
Hmm.
do. And I think what could be really useful is that we actually try to educate the rest of the world, the normal people out there, what is happening in technology and in startup world. Because if we can, what I've seen in like Stockholm ecosystem, which is like the Stockholm ecosystem is really good. But why is it really good? Well, we had 2 competing media in 2015 when I started, you know,
Hmm.
writing about every single race. I mean, that meant like, you raised like 1 million, like 1 million SEK. This is like 100,000 pounds. You got a whole article about you.
Hmm.
So what happened then was obviously this was business media. So then people who were like investing in other things started seeing these articles and
Hmm.
were like, hey, maybe I could make money out of becoming an angel investor. So they started investing. So more and more things, money was flowing in these startups. And then people at like Stockholm School of Economics noticed that. And all of a sudden, they're like, wow, we should not go to management consultancy or investment bankers. We should become entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
So, I mean, fast forward 5, 10 years after that, still the majority of people that go to Stockholm School of Economics wants to become entrepreneurs. That's where Klarna comes from. That's where Voi comes from. That's where, I mean, so many of these startups come from today. So it's like if media starts talking more about startups, the rest will follow, and you will have a more vibrant ecosystem, and maybe people will actually learn of what's happening in the startup sector. And so that's also helping the whole country hopefully grow in a way.
I
Anyway,
completely
sorry, that was
agree.
a
No,
long.
we got to meet, you got to meet the audience where they are. And like we've talked offline about this, and I think you agree with this, that like for us, it's live streaming, right? It's like, let's go meet this next generation with what they're currently consuming. We can turn it into copy. You can write you can write the great articles that we can't. But I'm going to let you do your craft and I'm going to make sure that I do mine. We're going to uplift this ecosystem ourselves, right? Because no one else is going to do it. So we might as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Love it. Mimi, I hear that you're also speaking on a panel on October 8th or moderating one.
Yes, yes. We're having Sifted Summit in London. It's going to be like 3,000 people from the startup ecosystem there. And obviously, I mean, Sifted Summit is a great place to be if you're an up and coming entrepreneur and you want to meet some VCs, maybe test your
Maybe get
ideas.
Mimi to write an article about you or two.
Maybe not, maybe. But anyway, yeah. So I can actually give out a code here. So if you want to have a ticket for Sifted Summit, you can use MIMI 20, and you get like 20% discount
Love it.
when you buy one.
I've got my media accreditation. I'll see you there. I won't be live streaming because they won't let me,
Perfect.
but I'm sure I'll find a way.
I'm sure you will. Come on, break some rules.
Oh, for sure. Mimi, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to doing it again. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Ciao.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having
the
me.
time.
Ciao.